Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Yoma, pages 42 through 48, Mem Bet through Mem Chet. 42. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Shtei shchitot shamati, achat shel para ve'achat shel paro. Two slaughters, one of the red heifer, the para aduma, the other the bull, the par, belonging to the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. Achat k'sheira bazar, v'achat pesula bazar. One of them may be performed, the slaughter of one of those may be performed by a non-Kohen, and the other must be performed by a Kohen. But I don't know which one is which one requires a Kohen, which one does not. Amar Rav Shesha Bered Rav Idi, Para Midi Dehava Amarat Negayim, Delavavodi Hibai Kahuna. Well, we can answer the question that the red heifer, the Para Aduma, is similar to the checking of tzarat affliction, of leprous afflictions, which is a ritual that is not an avodah of the temple. It's not a temple service, and yet nonetheless it's a ruling which requires kohanic participation. So therefore, of the two shchitot, of the para and paro, it is the para, the red heifer, which requires a kohen. It cannot be done by a zar, by a non-kohen, despite the fact that it's not an avodah of the temple. Mem Gimel, 43. V'choyom kohanim olim b'mizracho shel keves. V'hayom kohen gadol be'emtza v'yord be'emtza. That every day, when the Kohen would go up the ramp of the outer altar, he would go up on the right side of the ramp, which was the eastern side of the ramp. Whereas the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur would go up the middle and down the middle. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, every day of the year, the Kohen Gadol would always go up the middle of the ramp and come down the middle of the ramp. And only the non-Kohanim Gadolim, the regular Kohanim, the head Yotot, they would go up the right side and come down the left side. Rashi explains, why should there be a difference on Yom Kippur? Hayom Kohen Gadol marek vodo v'chipatan shel Yisrael. Today, on this day, the Day of Atonement, the Kohen Gadol, by his actions, shows the love that God has for Israel. Shu osa atzmo keben bayit, that the Kohen Gadol makes himself like a member of the household in God's household, like a ben bayit, in that he walks around the altar l'tzorach v'shelo l'tzorach, when he needs to, but also to a certain extent even that he doesn't need to, meaning he doesn't stick to the side and minimize the steps he takes on the altar. He's willing to maximize the steps he takes on the altar, like someone who is a comfortable member of the household rather than a nervous guest. Mem Dalet, 44. Every day when coals were taken off the fire of the altar for the purpose of burning the ketoret, the incense, they would be scooped out with a silver shovel and then transferred into a gold shovel. However, Hayom, on this day of atonement, Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol would scoop up the coals with a golden shovel and use that very shovel to enter into the inner sanctum. He would not do a transfer from one shovel to another. My time, or why not? Mishum chusha the Kohen Gadol, because we don't want to tire him out. It's a fast day, it's Yom Kippur, he's working hard, we don't want to give him more labor than he needs to have. And so we'll minimize it and say, use the same shovel for scooping as you do for bringing inside. Memhe, 45. The Torah says, "V'lakach malo hamachta gacha le'esh me'al mizbech lifnei Hashem." You shall take a pan full of coals from the altar which is lifnei Hashem, before God. Ezehu mizbech shmiktato lifnei Hashem, ve'eno kol lifnei Hashem. Which altar is partly in front of God and not entirely in front of God? Haviomer ze mizbech hachison. This refers to the outer altar. How so? Because its western face is facing the heichal, the sanctuary building. But the Mizbeach HaPnimi, the inner altar, is inside the Heichal, and it's entirely in the house of Hashem. So therefore, if we're looking for a Mizbeach which is only partially in front of Hashem, it must be of necessity the outer altar. Mem Vav. Hamorid Gachelet, Me'al Mizbeach V'Kiba Chayav. If you take a coal, a glowing coal, from atop the altar, and you put it out, or it goes out, you are liable for violating a Torah prohibition, because the Torah tells us, Eish tamid tu kala mizbeach lo tichbeh. A perpetual fire shall be burning on the mizbeach, on the altar, lo tichbeh, shall not be put out. So this means that not only is it forbidden to put out the fire, literally put out the fire atop the Mizbeach, it means that for no good reason, you're not allowed to take an element of that fire, a glowing coal of that fire, and allow it to be extinguished off the altar. Mem Zayin, 47. Natal tamachta b'yamin v'takaf b'smol. The Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur would take the fire pan in his right hand and would take the spoon, the ladle in which there is the incense which he's going to burn, the ketoret, in his left hand. The Gemara is incredulous. Yetziva be'ara v'gior b'shmei shmaya? The citizen is on the ground and the stranger is in the highest of heavens, meaning this seems to be the opposite of what should be. The citizen should be afforded great respect and the stranger should be given less respect. Of the two hands, the right hand is the most significant hand in Judaism, and the left hand is the lesser significant hand. So of the two items, the kaf, the spoon, the ladle with this incense, and the machta with the coals, clearly the kaf with the incense is more important because we're burning the incense. The coals are only the means by which we do the burning. It's of secondary significance. So we should have expected the machta in the left hand and the kaf in the right hand. Why has it been reversed? The Gemara offers two answers. One, zumaruba v'zumuetes. The pan of the coals is heavy, and the kaf, the ladle of the incense, of the spices, is relatively light. And a person's right hand is presumably stronger than their left hand. So we want to put the heavier item in the stronger hand and the lighter item in the weaker hand. Alternatively, zuchama v'zutzanenet. One is hot and one is cold. And we don't want to put the hot item in the weaker hand because a person might drop it because their hand might be burnt from the sensation, and if it's weak, they might drop it. So therefore, we'll put the hot item in the stronger hand and the cold item in the weaker hand. Memchet, 48. Boy Rav Papa. Rav Papa asked a question. Malochaf nav. When it says in the Torah that the incense must be malochaf nav, filling up the Kohen's palms, are we referring to smoothed out palmfuls or heaping palmfuls? The smoothed out version is a lot smaller or a lot less of incense than a heaping palmful. The Gemara responds, lo mechukot v'lo gedushot. It's neither smoothed out nor is it heaping over, ela tefufot, but rather somewhere in between, where there's a slight curvature to the amount of ketoret, amount of incense, so it's less than gedushot and more than mechukot. Everyone have a great week.